is more than just an activity. It's a profound passion. It's a passion that is truly and happily shared among enthusiasts, not merely for the sake of showing off to one another what you possess. No, the exchange of knowledge has very pragmatic reasons. The models that have been out of production for 25 years now need special care and attention beyond just regular maintenance. How do I repair what? Where do I find the right spare parts? If you get yourself an MB Trac and aren't a mechanic already, you'll soon find yourself becoming one. Trac drivers love their machines and truly enjoy their hobby. A hobby, you ask? Oh, well, the Trac can't be relegated to a mere hobby after all its years of strenuous labor. It was created for something else entirely, and that's what it still is today, a true workhorse. The MB Trac is still, even today, fully operational on a large number of farms, and many a farmer considers his Swabian-made tractor to be a truly loyal and dependable partner. The green Mercedes behemoths have long been a legend. Robust, economical, versatile. That's what the sales brochures promised in the 80s. Often, the reason for ending production was its too modern technology. The Trac is ahead of its time, its advocates would say. Has its moment of relevance finally come? How does the MB Trac perform today, alongside modern tractors and powerful forestry machines, all boasting over 300 horsepower? A reliable answer to that question will be provided to us in this film by the very people who truly ought to know. These are the experienced practitioners whose very hearts beat for a legend. A part-time agricultural business that fully relies on the Tracs. The Lotspeak family, living on the Swabian Jura, absolutely swears by their entire Mercedes-Benz vehicle fleet. But on this farm, you won't find the Trac, which has been maintained for many decades and generations. No, their relationship is still quite new.
It wasn't that long ago, not at all. That was in the year 2000, 2001. They were looking for a tractor, one that could go 40 kilometers an hour, complete with a cabin and a front loader. For forest workers and others, a front loader is always incredibly useful. So we looked at several other tractors, like IHC, John Deere. But in the end, we still decided on the MB Trac. We walked all around it, and yes, it certainly made a very good impression. I've driven them, and these tractors, they can easily reach 40. Compared to the others, they only went 38 and were quite sluggish, one must admit. And the ride comfort, especially with the suspended front axle, that was actually really superb. Then that's when we decided back then to go for the 800 model. We ended up purchasing that one. Of course, there were quite a few little things that needed restoring or fixing, and that's when my passion for the MB Trac really started to develop. And then at some point, I really wanted a 6-cylinder engine. So what were we going to do? Should we go straight for the larger series or just a 1000 model? Thousands were already quite high at that price. Then 1500s were quite cheap. And then so I just did a little bit of searching around on the internet, and that's when we discovered the 1500 model. We went to see it, talked it over, then went to see it once more, discussed it again, and then we purchased it. We even drove it back ourselves from Mannheim, actually. So we drove it all the way home, roughly 160 kilometers, and it ran flawlessly. It's still running perfectly. And that's precisely how the whole thing unfolded.
The entire fleet consists of MB Tracs. Not all of them are operational. The brothers will have the perfect chance to prove their technical skills and experience in the coming months. A project is coming up. Anyone who has no appreciation for old machinery, let alone for an MB Trac, would surely look at this site and ask themselves, where on earth is the scrap dealer? But our guys here, their blood really starts to race when they see a site like this. What's the full story, the history behind this particular machine? Is it even possible to get this machine back in working order? Where in the world can we possibly find all the essential replacement parts? Michael is already eagerly anticipating all the detailed work and tinkering.
So, it used to be an MB Trac 1000 forestry vehicle. A forestry superstructure, we have already dismantled it. That is going to become our restoration project. The tractor was built in '83, so it's one of the very first 1,000. And yes, as you can see, this one already has 26,000 operating hours on the meter, so it's already rolled over twice. Yes, that one was on the farm by Lake Constance, and it was driven a lot in winter, and you can tell just how rusty the tractor is. All in all, we had always wanted a 1000 series MB Trac, and then coincidentally it was in the weekly paper. So I got together with my brothers and we said, let's go take a look. After endless deliberation, we said, we'll take him. And then the question was, how do you get
him? Yes, technically, he's quite all right, we did say.
What did we do? We got a red temporary plate, and then we drove it ourselves the 150 kilometers back home. But we made an arrangement with the seller. If we break down, we'll bring it back. So look, the tow truck made it here.
The machine was still in good working order when I bought it, but is it still in that condition even today?
Yes, the tractor is still running.
Well, it's standing there, completely ready to go. And yes, we can definitely start now. Well, our current plan is to remove the cabin. We already have one in storage, which is in much better condition, and that one we will then restore and convert the tractor for agricultural use, meaning things like rear hydraulics and perhaps even front hydraulics, just those kinds of minor details.
He's going to be deployed again for work, and naturally for successes, obviously.
Of course, it's not meant to be a full-fledged exhibit, but it should be in good visual condition.
If the conditions are met, the young farmers must put down their wrenches and fulfill their duty. Michael has the seed drill attached to the rear. Agile and nimble, it quickly gets going, the smallest in its entire construction group. This 700 series model was not accustomed to working in the fields before. It was often allowed to stand idle, which benefited the current owners.
Yes, we drive the MB Trac 700K.
The K here stands for municipal. You can see that because it only has 20-inch tires on it. The normal ones, the farm tractors, they usually have larger ones on them, 24 inches.
And yes, that was actually a vehicle that used to belong to the German armed forces.
The tractor still has 78 HP from the factory.
And yes, it has double acting hydraulics, meaning it doesn't have any draft control hydraulics. That's actually the primary difference with this particular tractor. For the majority of workers, it doesn't really make any practical difference. For instance, when you're raking or sowing, we don't actually need that feature. When plowing, mainly when plowing, you typically use draft control hydraulics, but it certainly works without it too.
Michael isn't making quick progress with the sowing. The equipment slowly manages to cover half a hectare in an hour. The soil is very stony. Driving too fast would cause the machinery to suffer too much. In contrast, the front part of the typically stony soil of the Swabian Jura, the arable land, is more stable. The tires are not at risk of sinking even with higher soil moisture. After a rain, work can quickly continue. When things are so relaxed, the driver can enjoy his route. Michael then explains how it works to buy such a vehicle from the German armed forces.
Yes, that's handled through a specialized recycling company or directly by the federal government. You can find details about it on the internet. Yes, the company known as FIBIC. This firm was already quite active in earlier times, even before the internet had come into being. All the decommissioned machines from the German armed forces or from the federal government in general, they all come in here, and that one was in the barracks near Ingolstadt. And when we checked it out, it certainly made a very good impression. They had used it for, well, tree care or general green space maintenance, meaning no heavy-duty tasks. And for winter service, naturally, you can clearly see it everywhere. It has rust all over, and yeah. Overall, he made quite a good impression. And then we submitted our bid, and we actually got it. Normally, these tractors are well maintained by the German military, but there are always some that have had different drivers. You just have to be careful. You can tell by their external condition.
Not far from here, the other two guys are working. Christian Lotspeech is on his 800 in the corn stubble. His buddy Tobias Hugel is with him on his 1500. The engineers did not design the 800 with its 80 horsepower straight from the factory for demanding agricultural tasks. Of course, it brings along the necessary prerequisites, yet it's still surprising why the large 150 horsepower tractor doesn't simply pull away from the smaller one. There's more to the 800 series than is apparent at first glance.
MB Trac 800, model year 79. The special thing about it got a turbo, and now of course it no longer has 72 horsepower, and yeah, it's quite a difference, like day and night. You almost don't have to shift gears anymore.
For some, it's a beloved hobby. For others, it's the pure enjoyment they get from their work. The Lotspike family, with their MB Tracs, actively manages a farm. Tobias himself doesn't own any agricultural land. He simply finds great pleasure in the machine. When Toby talks about his machine, his satisfied smile truly speaks volumes, more than any words could express.
It's just for fun, because fun makes the driving enjoyable.
The 1500 model used to run in the Allgäu. At 16,000 hours, it changed hands and found its new home on the Alb. Tobias gave it a fresh coat of paint in some areas, fitted new tires, and installed a new clutch. That was it. Nothing more was needed after several decades of use. The Tinkering brothers first had to get to work on the 800.
The 800 series, that was quite early on. From the factory, it was actually a municipal tractor, orange with black. And then, back when we bought it, it was at an agricultural machinery dealer. They had already repainted a banner on a multicolor scheme, but the work wasn't done very carefully. 3 years later, we decided we wouldn't let it rust away. We'd completely restore it, and it looks great today.
The Lotspeich brothers have been truly gripped by this incredible passion, but what happens to that passion when children are raised growing up with a tractor, when their father tells them from a very young age that this is an absolutely fantastic machine? The daughters and the distinctive MB Trac belonging to the Peinhofer family are certainly no strangers. In fact, we had already been on site visiting them approximately 3 years ago. At that time, the 3 Peinhofer daughters proudly presented their impressive tractor equipped with its 4 equally large tires. The girls had a truly tremendous amount of fun, and Elizabeth Peinhofer was just on the verge of taking over the family farm. The tractor, that particular one, she would definitely keep, no matter what the future might bring. These were strong words from a young female farmer who otherwise fully embraces and relies on modern technology. Today, we want to find out how things are progressing. What's the current situation with the tractor?
The MB Trac, it will naturally remain on the farm. That much is clear. No matter what new machines or what new tractors come to the farm, the MB Trac, it will stay no matter what changes. That is for sure. It is totally cared for by us and it simply belongs to the farm. I grew up with it and I just cannot bring myself to give it away now.
Well, their point of view hasn't changed at all, but the tractors are popular, so interested parties will surely be lining up.
It happens quite frequently, actually. People often drop by or they get in touch with us purely out of genuine interest. They want to take a closer look. They're curious to see what condition it's in. It's simply for a bit of an exchange of thoughts and shared interests. Some people actually come and say they'd like to buy one. They're looking for one and, of course, ask if we would give it away.
But you won't do it.
No, of course not. Not for all the money in the world.
Elizabeth and Johannes are now in charge here, never without a tractor. That much is absolutely clear to Elizabeth. But what about her husband? Johannes brings a lot of experience into their young married life. He didn't experience his very first time driving an MB Trac with Elizabeth.
I was already happy there was an MB Trac on the farm during my studies. I had a practical semester where I got to work a lot with an MB Trac. That was an 1100 back then, but I was happy to be able to drive an MB Trac again. That was definitely good, exactly. Well, the primary work we were doing back then, it always revolved around planting corn. We would typically sow several hundred hectares of corn. And then during the harvest season, grain transportation was also very much a priority. Essentially all of the various kinds of jobs that you could simply accomplish with a tractor. Yes, that's precisely it. Spreading fertilizer, for example, among other things. Exactly. So from the experiences I've been able to gather myself, the MB Trac is definitely a very reliable machine. And as I said, especially in the transport sector, I find it has its extreme strengths because it also has extreme power even at low RPMs. As I said, for corn planting, for example, back then, it was a very agile tractor for me. It has very good visibility. These are strengths of the MB Trac. What you might need to get used to at the beginning, for example, is when you're backing up a trailer. It simply has a slightly different pivot point.
Johannes is a man who truly knows how to appreciate his tractor. That's why the two of them particularly enjoy just driving around peacefully.
What's left to do?
Come, let's take a little spin.
Understood.
Would it be quite as romantic on a modern agricultural tractor? Romance, however, is not the main concern. Elizabeth sees significant practical advantages in the tractor,
It's often used for various transport tasks, then also for the rolling process, primarily following the sowing, and occasionally it's also used for seedbed preparation. It truly has one very clear advantage. What we continue to appreciate and what we genuinely miss on every other tractor is simply the loading area located at the back. This is definitely the most practical thing my brother owns, and it's very straightforward. Any one of us can drive it. It's really easy to handle, and that's certainly not as simple with the newer tractors.
The 1600 Turbo, featuring a substantial 6 litres of engine displacement and a powerful 160 horsepower, is undeniably a true powerhouse. What advantages does Johannes see in it, quite apart from the strong emotional bond he has?
It doesn't have to perform as much now as, for example, a main field tractor like the Fendt is. But you really have to say the MB Trac, because it's simply a very basic machine with very little electronics. It has always been extremely reliable, and we've even thought about it again. So there really haven't been any major repairs in the last 5, 6, maybe even 7 years now. With the Fendt, you might have already had some electronic difficulties from time to time. And yes, as I said, it's actually very reliable, and you can still repair a lot yourself.
For Elizabeth and Johannes, the truck is an essential part of their everyday work. And do Elizabeth's sisters Magdalena and Franziska also every now and then get behind the wheel?
So we certainly still enjoy doing it. Naturally, it doesn't happen nearly as often anymore, but if, for example, something has happened out in the fields again, then my sisters are also quite interested, and then we take a little field tour on the pedelec, and we truly enjoy that.
So we'll be sure to visit the Peinhofer family once again next summer, and we're really looking forward to enjoying a lovely joint outing together. Josef Sticht, a genuine truck original, a man of flesh and blood through and through. At the Mercedes-Benz dealership in Traunstein, he spent his apprenticeship working on Unimogs. However, the dealership didn't actually have the truck itself in its product range at that time. This was reason enough for the young master to establish his own business in 1978. The Mercedes tractors had already been available on the market for 3 years by this time. Joseph is thoroughly convinced by these Swabian vehicles and actively helps to establish the truck's presence in the Chiemgau region. Today, he has given up both the sales operations and the large workshop.
It's not going to work. Let's see.
He simply cannot get rid of this deep-seated passion, this green fever. Joseph finds it impossible to keep his hands away from his beloved tools. Even to this very day, he still works with immense passion on all the trucks in the region and on his own personal mechanical creations.
It just won't start. We've already replaced the ignition switch. Then it would start sometimes, and sometimes not. It was the very same problem. Then we went and changed the starter motor. It's the same thing again. It starts sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. But if you bridge the solenoid from the battery with a screwdriver, it starts every time. So it's getting too little power or current, you could say, a continuous current to the solenoid at 50. So now we're going to go and install a relay for it, so it gets the ignition current for starting from the battery. And then we'll install the relay and pull in the cables, and then we'll try it out. And then it has to work. So, we have our relay. Now I need to put on my reading glasses so I can read the numbers, because when you're old, you don't see so well anymore. When I was young, I didn't have anything like that. Then we take 30. To 30, we'll connect the power. Then we'll give 85, and then we'll subtract. 86, we are taking the cable that runs down from the ignition switch and we are connecting it right there. And then from 87 we'll continue on to the solenoid switch. We're going to do that now. Let's get it connected.
So it has now been conclusively proven. A laptop is not actually required when working on an MB truck. The software, in this particular instance, is simply the mechanic's technical understanding.
All right, I've already got the cables prepared. We'll go ahead and connect them now. Our relay, I've already plugged that in. The cables, one more time. Okay, now we're going to connect the cable that runs from the relay to the starter solenoid for starting.
Each of the individual steps is perfectly executed. It's certainly not the greatest challenge for a seasoned mechanic.
You really need to be careful if you haven't disconnected the battery, that you don't accidentally touch the live power cables with the other wires. causing a ground fault. Then you'll get a short circuit. Normally we always disconnect the battery, but if you've done it so many times, then now we're going to connect the power cable, then we'll run it from the battery cable to the relay. Alright, now we'll make the mixture. Alright then. So, the cable was firmly attached. That one, this one is secure, that one is secure. Now we've got the relay connected to the cable in the back. Everything is firmly in place. The relay is also secure. So, now we can try the truck and see if it starts up. Alright, let's just check if it's going to work. Alright, let's see if this particular item is going to burn.
This will definitely not be the last truck he manages to get running.
Let's try again if it starts. He'll get it warm.
The second test run has also demonstrated it. The movements are perfectly executed. This powerful vehicle is an 1800 intercooler. It was, and still is, incredibly popular even today. You have to pay a fortune for it, don't you?
It is now an 1800 model. Before it was in the 1600 range. It has been converted. The original component from the turbocharger was still used. The turbocharger adapter piece for the M Series 1800 has now been installed. Then we took the V2A stainless steel pipes for the intercooler. After that, we used an intake manifold from the M Series 1000 because it draws air in from the front and then it continues on. It has the same system as what we need now. Before the turbocharger went straight into the intake, and now we're going through the intercooler, a genuine Daimler-Benz part. We also handled the exhaust system in a similar way. We now have V2A stainless steel with a larger cross-section. We kept the muffler original, but then treated its interior so that we have a completely unobstructed passage, without any internal bends or angles. You simply cut through it and then fit a larger exhaust pipe. If it has more power with the exhaust muffler, it's preferable if the exhaust gases are able to escape rapidly to prevent any back pressure from building up, because the engine will become hotter once more if the exhaust fumes cannot exit with sufficient speed, the exhaust gases that it currently produces. We bought the V2A pipes with bends and all the things you need, and we welded and measured everything ourselves. Until everything is changed, the front cooler and all that stuff, and the hood is modified, you need about a week's work, if one person is working on it, until everything is rebuilt and working. We opted for this solution because we have 85mm V2A pipes inside, and these need to pass over the cooler at the top, without us having to relocate the cooler or lower the external housing where the cooler is mounted. And first, it already looks quite good, and it's also better when it comes to heat dissipation. And then up front, if you look over there, you'll see an intercooler, the original one. We actually operate it, and in a year we probably clock around 50 hours of operation on it. And that's what we use to run the large square baler, specifically the Krone large square baler, and that combination actually works out quite well because it delivers 210 horsepower at the PTO, and its engine is tuned to produce approximately 250 horsepower, as it is currently set by the injection pump.
250 perfectly maintained horsepower beneath a gleaming hood, and yet it remains a true workhorse. But how do things stand today, 25 years after this truck's production ended, regarding its spare parts?
Actually, because Unimogs, trucks and certain other lorries have common parts installed, there are no problems with spare parts. Whether it's seals for the axles or many transmission components, they are still widely available. Specific items like headliner upholstery or similar things, those are no longer available. For those, we have to see if we can get them elsewhere or have them custom made.
The weather conditions are not the crucial element. For truck owners, it's absolutely clear that this machine always presents itself beautifully.
And the truck really stands out. When you're driving through a town or just parked somewhere, everyone comes over to take a look and asks, "Wow, how old is that truck? How old is it really?" And when you tell them it's already 30 years old or 25, everyone's reaction is, "It looks like it's only 5 or 6 years old."
We used to have a lot of grassland. We had many 700 models in operation, 800s, 900s sold quite well. Many of the 1000 series models arrived when that particular 1000 model was first released. And then we didn't have much in the way of heavy construction or farming equipment because most of our customers were grassland operations. But there in different areas, if you look where there was a lot of farming, the tractor was everywhere.
And so, to this very day, you'll still find well-maintained and fully operational trucks behind many a traditional Bavarian barn door. An MB Trac doesn't necessarily have to be green. This 700G is a very well-preserved testament to that fact. The G in its designation stands for grassland. Its specialized tires and the front-mounted power lift, which is equipped with a quick coupling system, collectively make this track the optimal piece of equipment for all types of grassland operations. On Carl Georg Benz's farm, the little one isn't the only truck. His 1400 is big and strong, a workhorse, but its smaller brother stands out thanks to its special paint job. The color wasn't decisive in the purchase decision. Technical capabilities were the main focus.
That was a Darger machine at Wilhelm Meyer in Neu-Ulm, and the color didn't bother me. On the contrary, because of what my wife wanted to drive it for, I would have brought her something special anyway.
The 700 model, for instance, delivered 70 horsepower. The prevailing rule of thumb for tractor pricing at that time was that 1 horsepower would cost 1,000 D-Mark. Mercedes-Benz followed this particular rule. The truck was displayed in the showroom, priced at 70,000 marks. To be able to work effectively and efficiently with the tractor, the farmer simply couldn't avoid purchasing a whole range of special equipment, meaning he had to dig much deeper into his pockets. On top of that, Carl Georg Benz also faced some unexpected additional costs.
What happened was this. The engine block had developed a water leak, and we were told it needed to be sealed. However, it wasn't the cylinder head gasket, as initially thought. Instead, the engine housing itself had a crack. And because of that, we ended up getting a brand new engine. So not just any experiments or anything, but when we started it up, that was all the water, and then we checked where it came from. It wasn't the cylinder head gasket, and then they took it apart, and then we saw, aha! There was a crack inside the housing. Then we put in a new engine and other things. The only thing we occasionally need is a new container for the coolant, because it sits relatively close to the exhaust. We need that quite often, and you can change it yourself. It wears out there, and then it gets a crack.
The 700 series is considered part of the compact model range of MB Tracs. Boasting 90 horsepower, the 900 model stands as the most powerful among these smaller units. In total, 24,603 vehicles of this particular compact series rolled off the production line, including numerous special editions like the distinctive White G. Specialized versions for forestry, industrial operations, and municipal applications are available. The forestry models are more robust, industrial trucks can also be used on rails, and the municipal vehicles are more agile. So there's definitely something suitable for everyone.
We settled on an MB Trac because practically, the brand itself, it was the only tractor we truly wanted to use for fodder collection with a front-mounted mower. At that time, there was simply nothing better than an MB Trac. When my father was still alive, we were always out collecting fodder, just the two of us, and we said, this has to change. That's how we came to the MB Trac, which had a front mower, so we could handle all the work around the farm and then drive off. That was the decisive reason. On our farm, it's a true all-rounder, a versatile machine that gets used for every single task. We deploy it with the feed mixer wagon during hay harvest, for raking and hay turning. It's used for spraying in the fields, for fertilizer spreading, for hauling feed in the past, and we've even had it out in the fields for sowing.
Upon request, a low-profile cabin from the Mauser company is available for agricultural operations with low stable entrances. This specific cabin configuration, however, is not a suitable option for drivers whose height exceeds 1 meter 80 centimeters.
The advantages of this machine are quite clearly its excellent all-round visibility. I am the captain. Even when I'm inside it, it's my command center, and I can look around wonderfully everywhere. I have a spacious cabin, suitable for summer and winter, and I feel very comfortable in there. And the really big advantage of this is that I don't have to ballast it when using trailer attachments. Safe driving on the B19, even for my wife. That is the crucial reason.
The Mercedes engineers and strategists were well aware the truck had to be capable of adapting to as many production processes as possible. Only then would it be able to solidify its position in the market. In 1991, as production was drawing to a close, the list of special equipment options included over 700 different items. If the decision-makers had only known the immense popularity this all-wheel drive tractor would still command after more than 2 decades, who knows how its story might have unfolded. On the edge of the Black Forest, it is cold and it has snowed. Not entirely without a certain amount of joy, father and son begin their work in the fog. Snow clearing is what's next on the agenda. Truck driving simply has its charm in every season. And if you don't like snow, then perhaps you don't have the right toy at home. Father Eugen clears the paths between the individual buildings. His son Sasha is clearing away the snowdrifts that had been pushed aside in the yard. On the Geckel family's farm, the Mercedes star on the hood is the dominant symbol. All 3 tractors used on their 40-hectare farm are MB Tracs.
And 3 MB Tracs, yes, 65, 70, a 1000 and a 1300. My grandpa bought the 65, 70 model 41 years ago. After a while, my father bought the 1000, and then a few years ago, the 1300 was added.
It's not just the fun factor, that's the reason for the star upon the hood.
It's a very pleasant hobby. and we can still put it to good use in our agricultural work. We can carry out all the necessary activities with them. And we genuinely find great joy in these vehicles. Soil cultivation is performed using all kinds of implements, such as cultivators, for the transportation of grain, and really everything else that comes along, like spraying and fertilizing. The two larger tractors take care of the majority of the work in arable farming, while the smaller 65 to 70 horsepower model is still employed a little bit as a dedicated utility tractor, primarily with the mounted sprayer unit.
Tractors must be absolute workhorses through and through. But does an MB Trac still make any real sense for a farmer in today's world if we consider the situation purely from a practical and unemotional perspective?
Yes, we've got them in operation because they're really nice vehicles. We're quite satisfied with them, and you can also carry out repairs without a laptop or anything like that. Not as much in terms of electronics as you find in the newer tractors. We actually just have one. It is now, how old is it? 38 years old. So we've gone and given it a fresh coat of paint, filled up the gas tank, done an oil change, and now we're hitting the road. I don't think that was entirely necessary, to be honest.
This truck is truly integrated into the family here. You can clearly hear that. But these machines were purchased to be worked hard, not to be constantly tinkered with.
They were all always immediately ready for deployment, and we just gradually repainted them, cleaned everything thoroughly, and installed a few lights. Yeah, things like the access step, a stainless steel one, makes it easier to climb up, and yeah, just little things to make the vehicle look a bit more presentable.
A truck that's well maintained and completely ready for use is not something you just casually pick up on a Sunday afternoon. You'd be quite mistaken.
We bought this from the internet, specifically from eBay. I saw it there, and at that point there were only 30 minutes left for it to be sold online. And then I showed it to my father and the signer, and he said, just make an offer. So I did, and then an email arrived. You are the highest bidder and you have purchased the vehicle. We picked it up the very next day on Monday, a quick stop at the bank, and then we collected the car. It was bought very quickly. We bought the vehicle completely unseen.
The two men with their powerful tracks have finally managed to conquer the snow, but they don't quite feel like stepping out of their spacious cabin. Everyone quickly agrees to take another small round through the snow. Only the 6570 is off duty. Sasha grabs the 1000. The tracks don't just prove their capabilities when they're working, right here and now. It's all about having fun. The 1300 belongs to the heavy-duty range, the 1000 to the medium-duty. Tracks in the medium-duty range are compact tractors with 6-cylinder engines. The heavy-duty range includes the powerhouses with up to 190 standard horsepower. The 1300 is the best-selling model in this range. Even today, many of these aesthetic classics are still in use, and to share their mutual passion, people gather across Germany. Geckels must not be missing.
So, at times, every second Sunday, we would be out with the machines at classic car meetings to exhibit them and have conversations about their restoration, how my father and I had repaired them together. The distances varied. Sometimes it was just 5 kilometers. We've also been to Rastatt, Gaggenau, at the museum for a meeting. That was still almost 80 kilometers.
When it comes to trucks, passion and practicality are often closely intertwined. For a farmer, it's a great relief when his son is old enough to step up and lend a hand.
So first I rode the MB Trac, then a bike. I guess I was about 7 or 8, could barely reach the pedals, but it worked. yeah, that's how I learned to ride.
The engine had only been turned off for a brief moment when the winter-weakened batteries began to show their true colors. The Tausender simply refuses to start up again. What a stroke of luck that the team is currently on the road with not one but two tow trucks.
This is just absolutely unbelievable.
Just a quick little tug from its big brother, and now the engine is finally running again. And so, off we go once more on our journey. After a brief minor delay, the fog is slowly beginning to lift and the sun is making for a truly perfect backdrop. The 1300 series takes you into the fresh, deep snow, especially during fast drives over uneven terrain. The MB Trac's standard axle suspension helps. Stably mounted between its two axles, you'll hardly notice the bumpy ground beneath you. With approximately 130 horsepower and 6 liters of displacement, Eugen Gakler sends the snow flying. The 1300 model is delivered for the first time in 1976. Its successor is the 1300 Turbo, which rolls off the assembly line starting in 1987. The tractor runs 40 kilometers per hour as standard. For the trucks not to rust, the haulers require care. The Tausender was already completely disassembled once.
Right, we completely, we took it apart, gave it a thorough, deep cleaning, and then freshly repainted it from the ground up. We painted the frame, disassembled all the components, sanded them down, and repainted them. We had already owned it for 20 years, using it on our farm. And then 3 or 4 years ago, we took it completely apart and prepared it during the winter months. It had 9,000 operating hours on it, and there was no rust through yet, but the fenders and other parts, and also from the sun, the paint was a bit faded. So we gave it a fresh coat of paint. One entire winter, just the two of us, we worked on it almost every single day. And we also went ahead and put in a brand new engine. And with a little bit of performance improvement, the tractor is now like new again. During the restoration, we installed smaller tires, which made the tractor sit lower. These were trailer tires, because the original ones are significantly larger. So we fitted these smaller ones. This meant the tractor was about 1 meter lower, allowing us to work on it more easily.
Standard replacement parts for the machines are still available. However, these will become increasingly scarce in the coming years. This is a reason for the Geckels to already ensure a healthy inventory. After all, the trucks should be able to plow through the snow for much longer.
It was put up for sale, and then the engine has only 100 operating hours, OM 352, and that's a spare engine.
If I'm going to keep driving an MB Trac for another 40, 50 years, then I'm slowly going to need some spare parts, as long as they're still around. This was an industrial engine. A large water pump was installed on the sprinkler system, and now we're going to preserve it and store it away in our warehouse. We've just given it a test run, as it had been sitting idle for quite some time. We put in fresh oil, removed a few more filters, and then we'll pack it up and seal off all the lines a bit, just like this, so that nothing can fall inside, ensuring it remains well preserved for us.
But where do you learn to work on these kinds of high-performance vehicles?
Took it apart and looked at how it would come back together. Someone had already taken it apart, or rather put it together. We simply did everything ourselves at home, just started, got it all back together, and then it was ready.
And when everything was finished, there wasn't a single screw left over. The landscape in the Black Forest, which appears so wonderfully romantic to hikers and vacationers, is a very tough and demanding working environment for the forest worker. Snow means freezing temperatures and a dangerous loss of grip for your tires. Beyond just specialized knowledge and unwavering endurance, these incredibly challenging conditions truly demand highly functional and utterly reliable equipment. Specifically, we need machinery capable of defying the most bitter cold, tires that will never deviate from the path even in the deepest snow, and robust, unwavering power that absolutely will not let you down. And here, a 90 horsepower tractor perfectly fulfills all these demanding conditions. A truck variant with the type designation F. With his 900 series forestry machine, Hannes Hornberger sets out for new challenges. The forestry contractor relies on his tractor from Gaggenau. Beyond the optimal material, expert knowledge is the essential accident protection. To avoid the dangers and risks, skillful work is required when felling conifers. The principle is simple. Cut trees, delimb trunks, saw them into standard lengths, then load and transport them away. In winter, the tree trunks are considerably lighter than in summer because they are not saturated with plant sap. Nevertheless, the forest worker must assess what humans and machines are capable of accomplishing. He works alone, therefore it is all the more important to have a flexible and multifunctional machine in operation. As early as 1974, Mercedes-Benz offered forestry gear for the truck. The Werner company supplied most of the equipment. Here we see a body by Ritter Forst, a Black Forest company. Hannes relies on regional expertise.
My father has been working in the forest with his Unimog since as far back as 1958. He always used specialized forestry equipment for his tasks. However, since the Unimog with its smaller wheels wasn't quite as advantageous in the forest anymore, the MB Trac was introduced back then, and that's precisely why they decided on the MB Trac at that time, for its equally sized wheels, its high traction exactly, and because it was a very robust and agile vehicle. The MB Trac was ordered new from Daimler-Benz back then, and the choice was between a Ritter and a Werner forestry setup. A big advantage for us here in the Black Forest is that the Ritter company is located nearby. They're about 25 kilometers from us, and it was also a custom-made product. The cable drum was made 2 centimeters wider to hold 120 meters of 12 millimeter steel cable. Given our hilly and, well, road-poor conditions, I'd say you still have to pull quite long cables. The entire body was constructed by Ritter company in Cell, AM Hammersbach. It has special forestry tires. It has the full equipment, including underbody and axle protection, as is standard for forestry setups. All right, so I've got the remote control right here, specifically for the winch. And as a bit of a surprise, it also includes the emergency call function. Then there's the button to release the left winch and the right winch. This here is the idle speed control. It's an adjustable motor installed in the MB Trac. First, pull the right winch, then the left one, and then start the engine. And also engine stop and frequency switching for safety, just in case another tractor happens to be nearby somewhere in the forest. Exactly. Also the battery is a completely standard one, designed for easy replacement. It's very handy and also quite nicely small and compact. Precisely, and in this way you are able to, even if you're 100 meters deep within the forest, start the MB Trac and then begin to work with it.
Today's modern machines are built upon the experience gained from earlier times. The company Ritter Forst successfully equips modern tractors with protective elements and other specialized forestry equipment. Many farmers are also forest owners. The tractor also needs to make a good impression, even among meter-high fir trees. The MB Trac is developing into a true forestry professional, and as it turns out today, it hasn't seen its glory days pass by yet.
So this is an MB Trac 900 turbo, manufactured in the year 1990. It has now accumulated 10,000 operating hours. It was primarily used in forestry, as you can clearly see, but also for landscape maintenance, with an embankment mulcher mounted on its rear support frame. This is the remote control unit for the Fliegel tipper, which comes equipped with a crane, or more precisely, it's the remote control specifically for the crane itself. To move the arm up and down, left and right, to swing the articulated arm fully in and out, to extend and retract the telescopic boom, and also to rotate the gripper once, then rotate the rotator itself, and finally open and close the gripper jaws. And additionally, the function for the stabilization of the entire tipper from the outriggers left and right, then up and down. So to operate the crane smoothly and fluidly, you really need quite a bit of practice. It takes some time until all the different functions can be operated together. This complete tipper was custom built by me, exactly as the customer wanted, including the stake pockets in the floor plate, which are from the Fliegel company. The total weight is 11 tons, and the crane can still lift 800 kilograms at a 6.5 meter outreach.
The striking power is generated by the right technology package, tailored to the type of applications and with an optimal cost-performance ratio. The forester must know what he's buying, and he needs to trust his equipment so the work runs smoothly. What's more, out in the snowy forest, the material shouldn't let the worker down.
Well, we haven't really had any major repairs on it up to now, just one clutch every 5,000 hours of operation, or 4,000 in this particular situation. It's still the second clutch that was installed and is currently in there. And otherwise, the spare parts supply from Daimler-Benz is still excellent. I have a good friend who has 16,000 hours on his MB Trac. He still has the original engine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. That already shows the quality from back then.
Hannes is convinced by his MB Trac. Would he trade it for a new forestry tractor?
I don't think so. You just get so used to it, getting in the passenger seat, the overview, the 4 equally sized wheels. You can see all the wheels from the cabin, where with today's tractors, I find the visibility isn't as good as it already was back then with these MB Tracs. Over there we have the front log grapple with its hold-down clamp, specifically designed to stack even very heavy logs along the forest path to pile them up. It also boasts a very high lifting capacity thanks to the special gearing system right here at the front.
"90 horsepower is certainly sufficient for the winches, but can the 900 really manage to pull these large amounts of wood out of the forest?" The trailer loaded with about 6 tons of wood, plus its own 3-ton weight. The MB Trac from the compact series struggles with its 7.5 tons of curb weight to avoid losing traction, but it wouldn't be an MB Trac if it didn't win the fight. Hannes Hornberger has never, not for a moment, lost his complete faith in his champion.
No, I have absolutely no concerns that it won't manage it with its 4 equally sized tires and its excellent traction. It has a curb weight of 7.5 tons. You can definitely get that on the road.
Work, passion, and hobby are very closely intertwined when it comes to the MB Trac. Sometimes one thing leads to another. The very first designs, meticulously drawn on the drafting board, were created in the late 1960s. The fact that a significant number of these machines remain fully operational even today is a testament to the unwavering commitment of Mercedes engineers to consistently meet the most stringent quality requirements. The selection of high-quality materials, the manufacturing expertise, and the sustainable supply of spare parts is the mixture for the elixir of life. The MB Trac is a motivation for young farmers to pursue the hard work, whether it's sowing with the small implement or cultivating the soil with heavy top-class machinery. Many other tractor models are in a truly desolate state, barely even worth their scrap metal value. The Trac, on the other hand, consistently increases its value year after year. Selling it, therefore, is simply not a viable option. The Mercedes-Benz tractor truly shapes the entire farm, its driver, and the female driver. Even then, when the next generation of successors takes over the leadership, it's about constancy and true perseverance. Without resourceful inventors, skilled mechanics, and dedicated repairmen, the Trac would simply not be able to continue its existence. Specialized knowledge acquired over many years and carefully handed down from one generation to the next. And the sheer joy of working with the machinery transforms daily life into a truly memorable experience. It turns a simple agricultural enterprise into a thriving family business and shapes a father and son into an unbeatable top-tier team. Farmers still appreciate its universal applicability even today. The concept truly hit the mark, or rather, it hit the green and sometimes even the white. Small and powerful. Despite the harsh conditions, the Trac seems to boast with its incredible vigor. It truly doesn't show its age at all. The MB Trac, that truly indomitable workhorse from Mercedes-Benz. This tractor is certainly not a hobby, or perhaps just a little bit.